Imagine a world where every discarded electric vehicle battery isn't just waste, it's a gold mine. What if that dead Tesla or BYD battery in a scrapyard could light up factories, power your neighborhood, or become your next passive income stream? And what if, in the very near future, the real competition isn't for new batteries but for the ones being thrown away? This isn't science fiction, it's happening right now, and it's about to turn the global energy and tech markets upside down. You're about to discover how a silent revolution, led not by tech giants but by everyday engineers and entrepreneurs, is rewriting the future of electric vehicles, power grids, and even your utility bill. Are we on the verge of a battery-fueled prosperity boom, or are we about to hit a wall of unintended consequences? Stay with us as we peel back the layers on the booming new industry of EV battery repurposing, and reveal why the world's trash could soon be your treasure. Let's rewind for a moment. The rise of the electric vehicle has been nothing short of explosive. In the last 10 years, EVs went from niche experiments to mainstream reality. By 2030, over 140 million electric cars are expected to be on the road worldwide. That's a tidal wave of batteries: lithium-ion, nickel-manganese-cobalt, lithium iron phosphate, each one a marvel of engineering, each one packed with valuable metals and complex chemistry. Yet from the very beginning, critics have raised a thorny question. What happens when these batteries die? Are we just swapping one environmental problem, fossil fuels, for another, piling up landfills with toxic, heavy, unrecyclable waste? The media loves those apocalyptic headlines: mountains of EV batteries to choke landfills by 2035, or the dirty secret behind clean cars. It's enough to make you wonder, are we racing into a new ecological disaster? But engineer Francisco Xu calls this story what it is: a lie. Saying that EV batteries will end up in landfill is a lie. Even if someone took an electric vehicle battery to the tip, someone else would grab it and sell it. They are too valuable and useful to go into landfill. Francisco isn't just talking the talk. He's building the future, right now, in a workshop surrounded by stacks of batteries ripped from wrecked Teslas and BYDs. These aren't pieces of trash. They're the building blocks of a new kind of power plant, one that's not run by governments or multinational utilities, but by regular people turning their rooftops and garages into profit centers. Here's the real headline: the old idea of batteries as toxic waste is already dying. Why? Because the economics have flipped. A single EV battery, no matter how dead for driving, can still hold and deliver massive amounts of energy. And that energy is worth cold, hard cash, especially in markets like Australia, where the grid is hungry for flexible supply and solar power is flooding the rooftops. Let's break down what's happening on a global scale. The battery recycling market is exploding. According to research, the global EV battery recycling market is projected to hit $64.6 billion by 2033. That's a staggering annual growth rate of nearly 24%. Why? Because governments are pouring money and regulation into ensuring these batteries don't get tossed. They get reused. Europe is leading with its battery passport regulation, taking effect in 2026. Every battery must be traceable: where it's made, what's inside, how it's used, where it goes when it dies. The US, China, and Australia are racing to catch up, pouring billions into recycling plants and innovation hubs. Companies like Li-Cycle, Redwood Materials, and Ascend Elements are pioneering technologies that recover up to 95% of battery-grade materials, often with a much lower carbon footprint compared to digging fresh lithium or cobalt from the earth. But let's zoom in on the grassroots. That's where the story gets wild. When Francisco was approached by a waste management company, his job was simple: figure out how to drain wrecked EV batteries so they could be shredded safely. But as he and his team worked, a light bulb went off. Why destroy these batteries just to extract raw materials when their true value is even greater if left intact? Francisco's workshop, tucked in an industrial wasteland lined with empty factories and unused transformers, is now a prototype for the future. He stacks decommissioned BYD and Tesla battery modules, hooks them up to slick inverters, and feeds the grid. The result? Passive income. Just by using batteries for energy storage, you can turn every grid connection into passive income, he explains. He's routinely making thousands of Australian dollars a month by buying cheap power during sunny, oversupplied hours and selling it back to the grid at night, when prices spike. It's a clever arbitrage, accelerated by the quirks of Australia's solar-rich, sometimes undercooked grid. During the day, so much solar energy floods the system that electricity prices go negative. Yes, the grid pays you to take power. By evening, demand skyrockets. Francisco's batteries, charged by rooftop solar or cheap grid power, jump into action, selling juice back at rates that sometimes hit $7 per kilowatt hour. His best night? You won $400 in a few hours. Not bad for a bunch of scrap. He isn't alone. All across Australia, as well as in parts of Europe and North America, a growing cottage industry is emerging. People are scouring auto wreckers for retired EV batteries, snapping them up from insurance write-offs, and plugging them into houses, shops, and, most lucratively, industrial sites with big, underutilized grid connections. All of which begs the question, who really owns the future of energy, the utilities or the people? Yet for all this excitement, there are layers of complexity and challenges. Not every battery is the same. Francisco prefers BYD modules for their stackability, but Tesla packs are common and cheap, if trickier to retrofit. The skills required to safely handle, test, and repurpose these batteries aren't widespread, at least not yet. But as Francisco points out, the market is only growing. Just in our street there are 3 transformers that are underutilized. The factories are closed. If on top of that we covered all the roofs with solar panels, we probably won't need too many solar farms or grid upgrades. The only drawback is power companies don't make money, he laughs. Is this the beginning of a new energy democracy or a threat to the old order? Let's take a look at those batteries. Are they really so easy to get? Surprisingly, yes, at least for now. Australia is writing off 4 or 5 EVs a week, often for minor damage. Insurance rules and parts shortages mean many perfectly good batteries are being scrapped well before their time. According to a report in The Guardian, electric vehicles are routinely being written off after minor accidents, as a shortage of skilled mechanics and parts, as well as outdated laws, leads insurers to scrap EVs prematurely instead of repairing them. And it's not just these batteries that are valuable. Motors, drive units, electronic modules, they all have a resale market among tinkerers, converters, and repair shops. Here's the kicker. Very few of the batteries Francisco has sourced, only 2 out of 20, were actually damaged by the crash. Most survived completely intact. Fires? Almost unheard of. Most so-called ruined batteries just need a little cleaning, maybe a replacement of a cracked coolant pipe, and they're good to go. For comparison, if anything goes wrong with your EV battery, you can buy a battery from a wrecker and swap it over, quicker than doing a clutch. If this sounds like a gold rush, you're not wrong. But, just as in any gold rush, there are risks and obstacles. Battery handling is non-trivial. High voltage packs can be dangerous if mishandled. Certification for grid connection is a complex, shifting target. The rules can change, and utilities are wary of too many newcomers suddenly feeding power back into the system. As Francisco discovered, when his retailer noticed huge amounts of power being exported from his workshop, they sent inspectors to check for meter tampering. The verdict? All was okay, they just hadn't seen anything like it before. On the big stage, industry and regulators are scrambling to catch up. In the U.S., the Department of Energy's Resell Center aims to drive down recycling costs to $75 per kilowatt hour by 2030. Innovations like direct recycling, preserving the precious cathode structure using less energy, are making battery recovery cleaner and more profitable. High-tech startups like Li-Cycle and Redwood Materials are betting billions on new plants, with recovery rates up to 95%. European governments are pushing hard on mandates requiring traceability and high recycling rates. The era of the battery passport is nearly here. But for all the progress, there are major hurdles. Industry expert Linda Gaines from Argonne National Lab sums up the opportunity and the challenge. Recycling lithium-ion batteries offers a significant opportunity to reduce reliance on virgin materials and minimize environmental impacts associated with mining. But to capture that opportunity, supply chains, technology, and regulation all have to evolve fast. Gavin Harper from the University of Birmingham highlights the next step. Automated disassembly and advanced sorting technologies are essential for improving the efficiency and economics of EV battery recycling. Manual labor, he warns, won't keep up when millions of batteries reach end of life. Meanwhile, companies like Mercedes-Benz are racing to build closed-loop recycling into their supply chains, ensuring the precious metals from an old battery go right back into a new car. Less waste, fewer emissions, more profit. Yet lurking beneath these advances, a fundamental conflict is emerging. Who gets to benefit from this battery bounty? As more private tinkerers, small businesses, and industrial sites jump into the Second Life battery game, power utilities and traditional recyclers are feeling the pressure. After all, Every kilowatt hour Francisco sells back to the grid is one less for the power companies to control and monetize. And then there's the specter of market saturation. What happens if too many people join the battery arbitrage game? Francisco admits that if enough users soak up excess daytime solar and flood the grid during peak hours, the price incentives could vanish. As more people do this, there won't be a peak hour anymore and the business case will decline. However, this appears to be many years off. So, here's the pivotal question. Are we at the dawn of a new, decentralized energy economy powered by second-life EV batteries? Or are we heading into a complex web of competition, falling margins, and regulatory headaches? Will the battery gold rush last, or will its own success bring about its undoing? And what happens to everyone, from individual tinkerers to billion-dollar recyclers, when governments, automakers, and utilities all stake their claim to the same pool of precious, powerful cells? We're standing at the crossroads of an energy revolution, but the path ahead is anything but smooth. In the next chapter, we'll dive deeper into the economic, regulatory, and technological battles already unfolding, and reveal how the battery gold rush could reshape who profits, who loses, and who controls the world's next great resource. As we look to the future, the story of used EV batteries is only getting more complex and electrifying. The industry is standing at a crossroads. On one road, the vision of a clean, circular economy powered by advanced recycling and grassroots innovation. On the other, the risk of bottlenecks, market saturation, and clashing interests between regulators, big industry, and the growing army of backyard battery entrepreneurs. Let's start by looking at the most optimistic scenario. Imagine a world where recycling technology leaps forward, where over 80% of battery materials are routinely recovered, as companies like Li-Cycle and Redwood Materials are racing to achieve. Governments around the globe, spurred by rising demand and climate urgency, mandate strict recycling quotas and launch the kind of incentives that turbocharged solar energy a decade ago. Every end-of-life battery is accounted for, thanks to digital tracking like the EU's upcoming battery passport system. Automated factories whir day and night, disassembling battery packs at scale, extracting rare metals with 95% efficiency, and feeding them right back into new EVs. In this world, closed-loop recycling isn't a dream. It's the backbone of the new electrified economy. Carbon emissions from battery production plummet as recycled content dominates supply chains. The price of lithium, nickel, and cobalt stabilizes, reducing geopolitical tensions over mining rights. As Dirk Walliser from Mercedes-Benz puts it, closed-loop recycling is a key component of our sustainability strategy, ensuring valuable materials from end-of-life batteries are reused in new vehicles. But that's not the only future on the horizon. There's another, more decentralized possibility, the one that grassroots experimenters like Francisco Xi are helping to create. In this scenario, the battery boom isn't controlled by giant corporations or utilities. Instead, small businesses, DIY enthusiasts, and savvy homeowners carve out a profitable niche by repurposing used EV batteries. Rooftops across industrial zones and suburbs sport stacks of former Tesla, BYD, and Nissan Leaf batteries, quietly saving or making their owners money by arbitraging electricity prices and reducing demand on the central grid. Picture hundreds of thousands of these micro power plants operating independently, each one operated by regular people or small cooperatives. As Francisco says, just by using batteries for energy storage, you can turn every grid connection into passive income. It's a vision that's both empowering and disruptive. Utilities, sensing a slow erosion of their monopoly, push back. Regulators scramble to catch up. Some regions welcome the battery gold rush. Others move to restrict private grid exports or impose new certifications. As more households and businesses jump on the trend, the price advantages begin to narrow. The days of $1,400 earnings in a single night might fade, replaced by thinner but more widespread gains. Of course, there's a third, less rosy scenario. What if recycling technology can't keep up with the flood of batteries reaching their end-of-vehicle life? What if regulations lag, or market forces drive down the price of recycled materials to the point where collection and processing no longer make economic sense? In this world, we might see stockpiles of spent batteries piling up, a patchwork of ad hoc solutions, and the environmental promise of EVs undermined by waste and inefficiency. The reality, most experts agree, will probably fall somewhere in between. But no matter which path wins out, the landscape is going to change, fast. So, what are the key risks and opportunities each of these futures present? On the opportunity side, the growth projections are staggering. The global EV battery recycling market could top $64 billion by 2033, expanding at almost 24% a year. That means tens of thousands of new jobs, a bonanza for anyone able to build efficient collection and processing systems, and a major reduction in the environmental cost of electrified transport. For entrepreneurs, the window is wide open, at least for now. Whether you're scavenging packs from written-off cars or developing software to track battery provenance for recyclers, there's room for new ideas. And for countries willing to invest in advanced recycling infrastructure, the payoff could be geopolitical: less dependence on raw material imports, a cleaner domestic industry, and a head start on a sector set to define the next 2 decades. But there are major risks, too. As the battery gold rush heats up, competition will get fierce. Not every business model will survive as prices fluctuate and regulation ramps up. Government incentives and regulations are critical for creating a stable and economically viable EV battery recycling industry, warns Andrew Miller from Benchmark Mineral Intelligence. An overly fragmented market, with thousands of small players operating under different standards, could make it hard to efficiently recover materials or guarantee consumer safety. And as more people jump into grid trading, the profit margins may evaporate if everyone is selling power at the same time, flattening peak prices. Then there's the regulatory wildcard. The EU's battery passport isn't just another sticker. It's a digital identity for every battery, tracking its chemistry, age, and recycling status. Similar rules are under discussion globally. This could make it much harder for small operators to stay in the game unless they invest in compliance and traceability tools. Big companies with the resources to handle paperwork and audits may push out the little guys, unless regulators are careful to balance safety with innovation. And don't forget the raw economics. Today, batteries pulled from wrecked EVs are a windfall, often because insurers, lacking expertise or parts, write off cars after minor accidents. As more mechanics learn to repair EVs and more parts become available, fewer batteries may hit the secondary market. Meanwhile, as battery technology evolves, shifting from chemistries rich in expensive cobalt and nickel to cheaper LFP, lithium iron phosphate cells, the recycling jackpot per unit could shrink. But the technological advances don't stop. Direct recycling methods like those from Princeton New Energy can cut emissions by up to 30% compared to smelting, and solvent-free processes are emerging to slash hazardous waste. Automated disassembly lines are being prototyped in Europe and Asia, and ambitious startups claim they'll soon bring the cost of recycling down to $75 per kilowatt hour or less. As Gavin Harper from the University of Birmingham puts it, automated disassembly and advanced sorting technologies are essential for improving the efficiency and economics of EV battery recycling. This is where the intrigue deepens. Could the backyard innovators like Francisco keep pace, or will the field consolidate into a few highly automated, certified plants? Will regulators encourage local power autonomy or lock the best returns behind corporate walls? The answer may depend on how savvy, organized, and politically active the small players become, and how much value they can prove they add, not just for themselves, but for the grid and the environment. As for the practical lessons, what does this mean for you right now? First, if you're an EV owner, know that your vehicle's battery is far from worthless after its driving days end. In many cases, it could spend an additional decade or more as stationary storage for your home, business, or even a local microgrid. As Francisco demonstrated, swapping in a battery from a wrecker can be simpler than you think, potentially extending your vehicle's lifespan or turning it into a renewable energy asset. If you're a homeowner with rooftop solar, or someone thinking about investing in energy storage, keep an eye on your local Second Life battery market. Prices are still variable, but as government incentives for home batteries roll out, and as more EVs hit the road, and inevitably the scrapyard, there will be increasing opportunities to buy high-capacity batteries at a fraction of new prices. Even if the arbitrage profits shrink as more people join in, the ability to cut your own evening energy consumption, or sell a little back to the grid, remains valuable. Are you technically inclined? There's a growing ecosystem of guides, online communities, and even certification programs for safely repurposing, testing, and installing used EV batteries. With safety, fire prevention, and grid regulations front of mind, a new generation of electricians and tinkerers is emerging, poised to become essential players in the energy transition. And don't discount the business opportunities. Whether it's launching a local battery testing company, developing recycling software, or designing better interfaces for hybrid inverters, the entry points are multiplying. In some jurisdictions, Simply understanding the regulatory shifts, like the EU's battery passport or new tax credits for recycled content, could offer lucrative consulting work. But a word of caution: check your local rules. Regulations around grid export, battery recycling, and electrical safety can vary widely. Whether you're salvaging batteries or just plugging in a second life storage system, legal compliance is growing more important as the market professionalizes. The Wild West days may not last forever, but those who act now and do their homework will be best positioned. What about the environment? Even if prices and returns wax and wane, the ecological benefit is real. Every battery reused for stationary storage or recycled at high efficiency means less mining, less waste, and a lower carbon footprint for our electrified world. So, let's return to the big question. As more players race to cash in on used EV batteries, will market saturation, regulation, or shifting economics threaten this new battery-powered boom? And who, ultimately, will win the global power struggle? Here's the answer: there will be no single winner. The next decade will be a dynamic tug-of-war between big industry, regulators, and a wave of resourceful small players. Some backyard entrepreneurs will cash out early, others will adapt by professionalizing or partnering with larger firms. Big recycling and energy companies will push for standards, automation, and scale, but they'll need the local knowledge, drive, and flexibility of grassroots operators to keep things moving quickly. Market saturation will eventually lower big profits from arbitrage and battery resale, but at the same time, falling costs and improved recycling will embed even more value in every spent battery. Regulation will tighten, but if designed right, it can protect consumers and the environment while still leaving room for innovation. And shifting technology, better batteries, safer disassembly, smarter grid management, will keep redrawing the boundaries of who can participate and how much they can earn. Ultimately, what we're witnessing isn't just a technological shift, but a social and economic revolution, a new phase in the democratization of energy. Francisco's story, and those like his, are a glimpse into a future where the power grid isn't just something you plug into, but something you can help shape, own, and profit from. And here's a secret fact most people don't realize: the batteries already on the road today, millions of them, are a gold mine waiting to be unlocked, not by some distant corporate boardroom, but by ordinary people with a bit of know-how and the courage to try something new. The winner of this global power struggle? It could be you. If you're excited by this future, take action. Stay informed about local rules, connect with the growing communities of battery pioneers, and, if you're ready, experiment safely with energy storage at home or in your business. The battery revolution is happening now. Will you be a spectator or a participant? Subscribe for more deep dives like this, and join the conversation in the comments.